They told you it was luck. They whispered it was circumstance. They pointed to the calendar and said it just wasn't the right time. But we are here today to bury that lie, to exhume the hidden truth beneath the shallow excuses that have chained the potential of generations. We are not talking about the failure of action. We are talking about the failure that precedes the first step, the slow, silent surrender that happens in the shadows of the mind long before the body ever crosses the starting line. This is the failure that happens in the architecture of your soul, in the blueprints of your belief. Look around you. The world is saturated with people who are smart enough, who are talented enough, who have the time and the resources and the connections to build the empires they dream of. They have the map, but they never set foot on the road. And why? Because they are defeated by an enemy more insidious than debt, more powerful than a recession, and more terrifying than a competitor. They are defeated by the indecision of the soul, the quiet, chronic hesitation that is the ultimate assassin of destiny. Napoleon Hill, in his monumental work, dissected the anatomy of success, not by interviewing the victors alone, but by studying the common toxic habits of the millions who fell short. And what was the great, glaring, universal flaw? It was never a lack of education. It was never a lack of opportunity. It was a failure to arrive at a definiteness of purpose. It was the refusal to plant a flag in the future and declare, with the iron will of a conquering general, "This is where I am going, and every single resource, every hour, every ounce of my energy will be dedicated to that single point." Most people fail before they begin because they mistake wish for will. They want a fortune, but they do not possess the mental heat required to forge one. They possess an intention, but they lack the incandescent, burning obsession that makes failure an illogical, impossible outcome. Think of it, the modern age has conditioned us for immediate gratification, for scrolling past life until we find a momentary spark. But success, real, tectonic shifting success, demands the patience of a diamond cutter and the stubbornness of a mountain. It demands that you stand on your initial decision, even when the evidence of the world seems to contradict your sanity. It demands that you understand the first, most crucial step. The clarity of the vision must precede the creation of the reality. You cannot build a skyscraper with a hazy watercolor sketch. You need precise, steel-reinforced blueprints. You need to close your eyes right now and see the finished product with a vividness so intense that the five senses are convinced it is already real. This is not some esoteric mantra. This is the fundamental physics of achievement. Every great work, from Thomas Edison's electric light to Henry Ford's assembly line, began as a mental counterpart. Edison didn't stumble on the filament in the dark. He had already envisioned a world bathed in electric light. His mind built the future before his hands did. But how do you cultivate that clarity? You strip away the noise. You eliminate the corrosive habit of seeking external approval. Most people begin their journey by checking the rear-view mirror. They are obsessed with what the critics, the neighbors, the old school friends will say. They shape their ambitions to fit the mediocrity of their environment, like a sculptor chipping away at a masterpiece until it looks exactly like the bland little statue everyone else owns. This is where the failure takes root, in the willingness to compromise the purity of the vision for the sake of social comfort. You must understand that your dream is a sacred text, and you are its only priest. To allow the opinions of the uncommitted, the uninitiated, the untested to water down your purpose is to commit spiritual suicide. The first step of the truly great, the pioneers and the titans, is always the same. They sever the tether to the crowd. They accept the price of being misunderstood. Walt Disney was famously told that a full-length animated film was a financial disaster waiting to happen. Snow White was mocked as Disney's folly. But his vision was so clear, his conviction so absolute, that he mortgaged everything he owned, knowing that he could see the completed picture the critics could not. His definite chief aim was not merely a dream. It was a non-negotiable command issued by his subconscious mind to his conscious effort. When you refuse to be swayed, when you burn the bridges behind you and commit to the destination, you unleash a power that the ordinary person, trapped in a loop of indecision, can never comprehend. This power is the magnet that attracts the resources, the people, and the opportunities you need. It is the undeniable force of focused thought. This leads us to the second, most lethal failure point, the one that kills more careers and stifles more brilliance than any external factor, the failure of belief to mature into conviction. Belief is passive, it is a hesitant nod. Conviction is active, it is a thunderous declaration. Most people fail because their belief is conditional. They believe if they get a lucky break. They believe if the market is kind. They believe if someone else validates their idea. This is not belief, it is a desperate hope tied to external variables. The philosophy of Napoleon Hill demands a different kind of faith, a faith that is self-generated. It is the faith you manufacture in the laboratory of your own mind, through the constant, rhythmic, emotional injection of your chief aim into your subconscious. You must internalize the outcome so deeply that when the inevitable obstacles arrive, and they will arrive like a coordinated army, your response is not, "Will I make it?" but "How quickly can I crush this obstacle?" This is the power of autosuggestion, not as a trick, but as a deliberate programming tool. Your mind is a factory. It will produce whatever raw materials you feed it. If you feed it fear, doubt, and the constant narrative of lack, it will produce evidence to support your failure. If you feed it the detailed, vibrant image of your achieved purpose, backed by an emotion so powerful it borders on ecstasy, your subconscious will mobilize every creative faculty, every latent talent, every ounce of raw drive to bring that image into reality. This is the conversation you have with yourself in the dark, silent hours of the morning, and this conversation determines whether you are destined for the throne or the dustbin. It is the secret dialogue of the truly unstoppable. And for those who say, "This is too simple, this is just positive thinking," they fundamentally misunderstand the depth of this process. It is not just thinking, it is the transmutation of desire into its material equivalent. It is the disciplined daily work of controlling your internal climate, ensuring that the fire of your ambition is never allowed to dwindle into a flicker of a wish. It requires a specific kind of mental toughness, the courage to stand guard at the gates of your own mind, turning away every thought, every person, every circumstance that does not align with your dominant purpose. And this mental toughness brings us to the most practical, yet most avoided, step, the necessity of organized planning and massive, intelligent action. You can have the clearest vision on earth, you can possess the faith that moves mountains, but if you do not translate that spiritual fire into tangible, written, and executed plans, you are merely an architect with beautiful blueprints gathering dust. This is where the dream meets the dirt. Most people fail because they stop at the dream. They love the idea of success, but they recoil from the necessary work of organization. They have a goal, but they lack a master plan, a precise step-by-step methodology with specific timelines and assigned responsibilities. The successful person understands that the universe rewards specificity and punishes vagueness. Take a look at Abraham Lincoln. His chief aim was to preserve the Union, but how did he achieve it? Not with abstract hope, but with an organized cabinet of mentors and allies. He surrounded himself with men who were often his rivals, but who possessed the specific skills he needed. He created a mastermind alliance, a concept Hill dedicated his life to teaching. He knew that no single brain is sufficient for monumental success. You need the harmonious, compounding power of multiple minds working toward a single, unified purpose. Most people fail because they are lone wolves, isolated by ego, too proud or too timid to seek the counsel of those who have already conquered the territory they wish to claim. They attempt to climb the mountain without a guide, only to be turned back by the first storm. The mastermind is not a convenience, it is a necessity. It is the engine room of all great fortunes and all world-changing movements, and finding yours is the first major act of true, organized action you must undertake.